Oh, okay.
Yeah, because that's like the tradition. So, hey guys, welcome to the 4th episode of the Melee Stats Podcast with returning hosts, me, Edwin, and Kay, and our special guest for tonight, Aiden. Aiden, if you want to give like a little background about what you do in the Melee community.
Yeah, for sure. So, my name's Aiden. My tag is Calvin. I've been in the community since the end of 2013. I'm currently the co-owner of Endgame TV, and I had a lot of projects there, like tournaments we've run, like Jump Park on the Grass, the Emerald City series. Have helped run events like Flatiron and the Gang Host Melee tournament, and I also am employed at Smash GG.
Dope. And
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah. And actually, that kind of, we brought you in here, especially the run into this first topic. Flatiron was the biggest event last weekend, and you have a very interesting perspective on it being like a part of running the event. So I'd love to hear more about like what that was like, any struggles, people complaining about you on Reddit, just hypotheticals.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
Start with like giving us a lowdown, like the schedule from like what did your day look like?
Yeah, so first of all, like just to preface, like I wasn't the head organizer of this event. I did a lot of like bracket, like groundwork for it, I guess. But the head organizer was Apple, who is also a member of EGTV. So this is like his baby. But a few of the other members of the team were like actually like running the brackets, I guess. So the tournament like got a little bigger than we expected, but within like the scope of what we could do. So we had to change the schedule relatively last minute, because I think originally singles was supposed to start at like noon and top 8 to start at 7. But we ended up changing it so that like doubles still started at 10 and singles would start at 1:30 instead, just so we had like more room, because we got like a ton of teams, or a lot more than expected. I think it was like 86 teams. And so we, Justin, Paper Fairy, and I ran doubles. Like it was like relatively easy. I think like just like we're both like experienced TOs, and like I ran it really quick. We were really happy with how that turned out. We got way more setups than we had predicted. We were worried about like the setup count originally. And then over the course of the day, our volunteers and Justin ran pools. And we just kind of oversaw like how the volunteers were doing, and then we got into like the bracket by 5:30, at which point me, Justin, and Connor, or AKA Contra, who's like an Oregon TO, were calling matches, assigning matches to like one of the 3 Melee streams we had, and that was basically how my day went. And like in terms of staff lineup, like we had an amazing staff. So I like entered, I got to play singles. Speaking of which, we'll never enter another tournament that I have a significant hand in.
I saw that.
Did you enter Flatiron 3?
I'm like definitely done doing that. Like I just like can't. I've never performed well at a tournament where I've had a significant like staff role at, because like I'm distracted by that all day, and then like the only games I play.
Did you enter as Calvin?
I entered as my secret new tag. I've started entering tournaments as Blonde.
I like the Frank Ocean album, Blunt.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so like that's my tag until I decided I would switch my tag until I'm less fed up with my results.
You should be Channel Orange, dude. Then you would do better.
But yeah, like as you may have seen on Twitter, like I lost to Anti, which was not exciting. Like it was actually the worst set ever, dude. Yeah.
Oh. Damn. Wow.
For the record, it's so weird playing. There's 2 things about that set. One, I didn't get a single combo started on him, because every time I hit a shine, like I played some of the worst Melee I played in the past 6 months, where I landed a shine and I would just air dodge afterwards. And I air dodged after every single shine I did, and I went for the same recovery option every single time.
Oh,
and
no.
Because like I just like was not focused. Like I don't know if you guys have like ever like staffed like a large tournament before and then like played, but
yeah, I have.
There's just like I've taken some like really important steps in like my personal life to make sure that my results have improved and that I play better. And every step I've taken over the course of the past 4 months I completely ignored and didn't do at this event. And like I can't keep doing that and like be satisfied with my performance. So like I'm just not going to enter events that I run anymore. Like it's
Dude, what's it like to balance, like you seem still very invested as a player. What's it like
totally.
balancing your TO goals with your personal like goals in the tournament?
Sort of difficult. I would say it's more like it's difficult to balance like player goals and work goals more, because like TOing to me just falls under like what I consider to be my work, and like that just absorbs a lot of time, and it's hard to like make time to develop as a player as well. But like the only reason I'm still involved is because I like love the game, and like competing is actually like everything to me. And like I've just been like steadily improving for like as long as I've played the game, and like I think that's what I care about most. Like when I show up to a tournament, that like competing is like the most important thing to me, unless I'm running that tournament. And I do have like longer term TO goals of like what I want to build endgame TV into with like the team members I have there, and like the type of events I want to host. Those are really important to me. But at the end of the day, like competing is something that like drives me forward as a person. Like, you know, just in like everything I do, I would say, not even just Melee, and like Melee in particular is a very like fulfilling thing that I pursue. So like I never will like want to stop competing.
Dude, it's funny that you're mentioning this, because I want to bring it back, because I was talking to another person about this same thing. Shout out to Slime from Bad Melee. I was just, okay, this is gonna sound ridiculous, but like, you know, I was talking to him about like a lot of people that work within the scene, like either as a tournament organizer or content creator or whatever. And like, I think the one thing a lot of us share in common is the fact that, you know, most of us still see ourselves as players first, or our background is as a player and as a competitor. You know, like I wouldn't write about Melee history were it not for years of getting second to Keith or I guess not years, but like months of getting second to Keith at every Yukon Weekly or third, you know? Like I still have a lot of emotional investment in that. And I feel like it's kind of one thing that's weird when I see newer people enter the scene, and you know, there's nothing wrong with it, but just like, I feel like if you're in the scene, like primarily as a spectator and your background is as a spectator, it's just like a completely different experience. And
I definitely agree. Like this is not that like there's like more nuance to this than like how I'm presenting it, but I think at the end of the day, like if you want to be involved in the scene, like you should have a deep love for the game itself, and be invested in that, and invested in that love of the game that you have. And if you don't have that, then especially like long term, I don't see, because I'm personally not someone to like not that like I've made like very important connections and very important friends through my like days in the community, but personally all of like my best friends like aren't really involved in Smash. And like to me, like the reason I've stuck around and the reason I'm involved in this community and I've stuck it out for like all these years, and it's given me like everything I have now in terms of like a career and like what I get to do and like why I travel. Like I'm not ungrateful for that at all. But like at the end of the day, like why I'm here is because like Melee's like fucking amazing, and I love it.
Yeah, I feel like
it's bullshit also, but like it's like any kind of other thing, you know, like if you hate some parts of it, but you come back to it.
We all of us here, I feel like we all feel that way. I will say though, Marth really tests my patience for the love of this game.
Okay, don't get me started.
I can't believe you would let the best character in the game test your patience.
Oh god.
I know,
right?
No.
Oh no. This is a bad conversation.
Shocking. I don't know. I just like that's a different conversation, but we you know, some other time maybe. But I'm just saying.
Another thing I want to say on that note, by the way, is I talked to Juggleguy about the same thing about balancing TO goals with player goals, and this was this was 2 years ago, and I remember this was when I think NMW was on the come up, and you know, like I'm not saying like that Juggleguy was necessarily wrong at the time or whatever. I'm just saying like the kind of state of mind that he was in or in terms of like evaluating himself as a player. And I just frankly asked him, I said, hey, how do you think you would do against like NMW as a Captain Falcon? Because I keep forgetting that, you know, like you're actually a pretty solid Falcon, even though people know you more for being a TO. He was like, oh, I think NMW is a little better than me right now, but if I were to play him with a little bit of practice, I think I could go back and forth. And that was just kind of crazy to me that this guy that's completely like, people know him for one thing, like which is running the big house and being a national TO. He still has so much pride in himself as a player and so much drive at like in the area that actually got him into the game.
You'll see that like most of the people who have been involved for like a longer period of time, especially, well, at least TOs, I would say, are like, if you look at all the old school like big TOs, they're all pretty decent. Like even if people meme about it all the time, but like, you know, Blur can play the game, like he can. Like he's actually okay.
He's better than average.
And yeah, exactly. And like so Juggleguy like ranked in Michigan and has like good, you know, like borderline top 100 wins still. Like I remember I showed up to yeah, and like he beat Heartstrings, and Heartstrings is like pretty good. And and it's not something I would have expected. And the same thing goes for like Sheridan. Like all these old school TOs who have stuck around, it's because they were players, and like they all have, like when you watch them play, like they all have a basic level of skill that's like, I would say, higher than the average, you know, spectator or player who just like has been showing up for a bit.
Yeah, Calvin, at the first tournament where we met each other, which was Shine 2016, you remember when Sheridan messed up Axe and crew battles?
Yeah.
Just out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Wasn't it face roll?
No, Sheridan screwed up Axe. Axe was caught completely off guard.
Yeah, he destroyed Axe. It was close.
It was literally the most random thing ever. I was like, where did this
it was like
he's like capable of it. Or like Matt.Zeb is a good example too. We all know like Matt is wildly inconsistent, but if you watch Matt play, like when you watch Matt play his best, he's actually like pretty fucking amazing. So
yeah, I mean, relative to the field, like he's clearly put in the work to.
We should probably like go back to Flatiron.
Yeah. Okay, so back to more important topics. What did it feel like to have ungrateful Reddit kids downvote players throwing history into question?
Yeah,
because they didn't like watching KaMaster Hugs.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
On the okay, so like this is about the Reddit feedback, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
can I say my initial opinion?
I want to hear your thoughts.
So I read it and I was like, where's Aiden's post? Like, what did you link me? Why did you link me this thread? And I looked at the bottom, and it was like minus 113.
Oh my
113. Like, and it's censored.
Oh my god.
Like this is deemed not suitable. So
it's a negative. Like, it's negative 160 now. It's negative 160.
Oh my god.
And then I expanded it, and it's like the response has like 140, like larger than the amount of total upvotes that the post got, like the entire post got. And then I see the thread going down, and it's just like negative 110, negative 70. I was like, holy shit. And I was like reading it, and so my two takes away. So I was like thinking, I was like reading it, I was like, okay, I agree, right? So you prioritize, you know, your friends over like certain other matches, which like sounds bad on paper, but when you think about it, it's like KaMaster Hugs, like Zain, like, oh no. Like if it was just like some random people like that we didn't even know of, then yeah, I get it. But
it wasn't
it's like
these... they weren't like low level awful sets either. Like I don't know if you guys saw Iceman Tie, but like I thought that was a pretty great ending. Like, or not like a hype ending. Like I'm sad Evan lost in the way he did, but
yeah, I mean it's just like I just feel like there are certain areas where I feel like people kind of misuse Untitled for like the people on Reddit or like viewers, but in this sense I do think that there's like a lot of misplaced like criticism that I don't really think is very fair at all. It's just like super like they're conflating what they want to see out of the stream with like actual criticism, which kind of like hurts the legitimacy of like real criticism, which is a little That being said, I do think the way that you responded was kind of bad PR and could have definitely been avoided.
Yeah,
No, dude, I'm all for it.
I do agree with that. Like, hold on. I'm gonna lead this with a few things. One, the best play in this situation would have been to not have said anything at all.
Yes. Yes, 100%.
100%.
If I absolutely had to say something, I should have said it in a way that didn't demonize the people bringing up the question. And could have either sugarcoated the truth or just lied. But I went for option 3, which in terms of my self-image, perhaps was the worst option.
Oh yeah,
maybe.
But what I already sort of knew, but what I really learned is that Reddit doesn't want to hear it like it is, dude.
Reddit can't handle the truth.
So this is the deal, right? Is Reddit, especially to the people who have barely attended any tournaments, or perhaps no nationals.
Damn.
Because that's what the majority of the subreddit is, right?
Yeah.
People who haven't gone to that many nationals and definitely haven't run that many fucking tournaments. Like, they don't understand, because their perspective of a tournament, their whole world is that stream. So they want it to be as good as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But what they don't realize from a TOing perspective is that the stream is near the bottom of your priority list, because it doesn't affect the experience of the people who actually paid to be at your event.
Mm-hmm.
It has a very little effect on that.
Yeah, like there's that argument that goes around a lot that, you know, yeah, there are the people that come to the tournaments, right? But there's also like the people who watch the tournaments, and without us, then, you know, we wouldn't be able to like, you wouldn't be able to do these kind of things. And to an extent, that is true. And that's like the hardest thing about it.
I think it's Oh, okay.
But at the end of the day, like, you have to realize when you're signing up for like Smash G tournament or like on Challenge back in the day or on like
TO Pro
or TO Pro or like what or whatever the fuck, like, it's some of these tournaments are very expensive, and a lot of the time that you're looking for housing, you're looking for flights, you're trying to get to these tournaments, you're spending a lot of money, and if you're not prioritizing that first, like you're not just prioritizing players in terms of like their tournament experience, like the tournament wouldn't function without the players. Yes, that's true, but consider that they're also paying for it. They're paying so much money for it, way more than the viewers are, and you want to prioritize people who have made that sacrifice first. It's only it's only like the proper thing to do. Like, regardless of how you feel about how much the viewers should be getting out of the experience. And I think that should be the first priority to people. And I think that a lot of people who try to use that form or argument kind of like misguide that kind of perspective a lot.
Okay, yeah, actually, like, coming into this, I was very confused about, like, Aiden, your argument of, like, pushing it towards that. But, Kay, you just explaining that there and, like, the way you process that really kind of made me flip my perspective. And I do think it's the size of the tournament matters a lot. Because if someone like, if Juggleguy did this at the big house, people would be pissed, because that's like, or it like, well, Evo kind of already screws us over for streams, but like, it definitely depends a lot on the size of the tournament for like what should be prioritized. And again, that discretion, as much as someone who's just watching the game or not being at the event wants it to be one way or the other, that discretion ultimately falls on the TO and the person who's running the event. They put all the time and money and effort, and no matter what we may want as a viewer or an attendee, whatever they say goes, and that should be, you should respect their opinion on that, essentially.
I would definitely argue, like, I think I agree with your point, but even, like, I don't even know if I would agree about the big house. And this is because, like, in grassroots esports, where the stream isn't a big moneymaker, there are very few events that, as an individual event, have a considerable impact on the growth and the success of the community. So if you didn't stream every Big House, I think it would matter. But say we just didn't stream Big House 8, and but Big House 9 comes back in full force. People would obviously be upset, but the impact on the community would be negligible, I would say, especially at this point. There are certain events that the stream was important to, like, the integral of was integral to the growth of the game, and like Evo 2013 is an easy example, or Evo 2016, where you have a stream that gets so many eyes on it that it has an obvious large impact on the growth of the community or the success of the community, and also it's at a scale where it's finally making like some sort of money. But even then, it's sort of like questionable unless you start to, if you include the sponsor money, it probably pays off.
I think the Big House 4 is another really good example of a notorious, or not notorious, but a really strong top 8 that undoubtedly.
Yeah, that like probably did a lot for the game. I think it's more about like streams are, so I think the problem with people complaining about it, and people like tried to like argue with me about like, well, you're not going to see any long-term success either, and like, well, this is like the growth of the community is dependent on these streams, and if you show matches, guys, it's the beginning of top 48 at the like probably the smallest major of the year. It has no impact. It really doesn't. And if you did this consistently across the board at every tournament, intentionally put less interesting matchups at every, then maybe it would have an impact. But in this specific situation, I saw everyone's arguments as basically null. There were no stakes to me putting those matches on at that time that really mattered. Like, it made some people upset, but me putting KaMaster versus Hugs on at the beginning of top 48 when like 2,000 people were watching, that doesn't really matter. You can make an argument that maybe it matters like later on in the tournament, maybe, and like also that it could possibly affect the image of like future iterations of the tournament, but that still only matters when, you know, the majority of people watching that event are watching. And I think you can sort of see that like the stream shouldn't have a primary effect on like whether or not people want to go in the end, because there are events that have become very successful by their in-person experience and not because of the stream at all. Like, I think a really good example is like Air, where the stream, honestly, Air's stream is like pretty normal, you know, like I wouldn't say mediocre, I guess, but like,
well, it is run by Kiki Goon Squad. It's like the quality is good.
See,
but
last Air was run by Big Good Gaming.
Oh, was it? Oh yeah, you're right. Actually, I do remember that.
And like, don't get me wrong, Leva's streams are super high quality and amazing, but I don't think like the stream is just a stream of the event still. Like, you can brush it up and make it how you want and it'll look nicer, but at the end of the day, the stream captures none of what makes Air special, in my opinion. Why Air caught on is because a bunch of people went to the event over and over and over again and came back consistently saying it was like one of the best weekends they've ever had. And the same goes for like Don't Park in the Grass, which for the most part was a shitty viewing experience. Like, people complained about the stream a ton, but I can tell you that this event this year is probably going to be a bigger deal because a bunch of people heard that the in-person experience was really good, and you know, we cleaned it up by the time top 8 happened, and that's when the majority of people are watching. It doesn't really matter what the fuck is going on with the stream at the beginning of your top 96, top 48 bracket, because the eyes on it are limited. The eyes on it are the people who are the hardcore fans that watch most of the time anyway, and are going to be tuning into the top 8 later anyway. Like, I just don't see, like, everybody's argument that was against my point, albeit phrased not very well, was like pretty much moot by the fact that their opinion doesn't really matter in that situation. And that's what I was trying to express, is like, the stream can ask for whatever they want, like, oh, we want these matches, or we want to see this at this time. But like, why the fuck would I care about what, like, I'm not gonna go out of my way I don't want the stream to be an intentionally bad experience. I will try to make the stream good, but in terms of all the other things that are on my mind, all the other things that we have to focus on, like, I'm not going to go out of my way to provide, you know, SFAT versus Smuckers just because it's Fox Falcon and you really want it. Like, it doesn't matter to me. And it doesn't matter to the viewer in the end because they're still screaming their heads off during top 8 when Axe beats Leffen. And that's all they really remember anyway.
Yeah, I would like have to say that, like, okay, so the response like really don't care about catering to what most people want, and in most contexts, like, I would not like respond very well to that. But the thing is that that these people don't like realize is that there's a lot of comments about how much of poor decision making was. But I think this is, if anything, I think this is an extremely petty thing to complain about in the wide scheme of things, and I think it's just actually a really, really clear-cut example of like character bias and how like there's so many people who just don't clearly care about like how other people want to perform or like what they want to do. Like some people want to see Luigi Samus, and because like the majority don't want to see like some of the floatier matchups because they find that inherently more interesting, is like, well, all right, I guess like fuck those people because of no reason whatsoever. I mean, you still get like so many tournaments where you get to see like X matchup and it's exciting, and the one time like a tournament does something different, then it's like suddenly unacceptable. I think this thread like shows two things. It shows like, one, that there's like that intense character bias, and two, a lot of people in this thread care more about the response than actually
in the thread. You can tell by
the actual thread. Yeah, like nobody, like the actual comments in the thread are not that much. Like there actually isn't that many people like complaining. They just, a lot of these people just really want to be a part of this conversation and then be on the side of just like shitting on Calvin.
Yeah.
Because if you just take a step back and look at it, there actually isn't really an issue besides that. So it's kind of just like a very over-exaggerated thread where a lot of people are kind of just being angry for the sake of being, because there really isn't a bigger issue.
I want to ask one.
Like, I made a bigger deal out of it than it ever would have been, and that's why I said the number one best thing I could have done, and why the thing I did was the worst option of the three I laid out. The number one best thing I could have done was literally have ignored it.
Yeah.
Wait, so Calvin, I want to ask you like one thing just to clarify on something. Well, actually two things. Well, I'll start with the first one. What are the downsides to like what are the downsides to putting something like Smuckers and SFAT on stream, or like is it actually like very out of your way?
There's no downside. Like so that's except one, I guess you could argue, but this was not a part of my personal thought process at all. It was something brought up by my co-TO Connor later on. Is that people, because of the bias towards certain matchups, we've seen matchups like Fox Falcon happen more frequently on stream. So like because those matches are in higher demand. So the negative thing might be by you're kind of enforcing that feedback loop, and it might be good to break that and expose different matchups to people on the stream. That was like his thought process, or part of his thought process.
I meant more so in terms of like tournament logistics. Like there's no downside to having Smuckers SFAT on stream.
No, of course not.
Like
sorry, I don't want to like attack you putting
no, totally. Not like an attack,
I'm just
like,
genuinely asking because I'm trying to think like logistically why someone would like see a quote unquote like favorable matchup but not show it on. Is it just matchup variety, or what's personal preference to the TO?
Yeah, like I can literally walk you through my thought process of putting these matches on, because it's less of like an active thought of like, I think that especially for my comment, it seems like I intentionally disregarded the viewers' preferences. Whereas it was more a thing of like not very much thought at all. Like we looked at the brackets, and I like talked to Connor. I was like, hey, I kind of want to see like KaMaster Hugs, like that. Like I bet like Ammon could beat him, and like that was literally. And then the same thing with Iceman Ties. Like yo, like when's the last time Evan played Tie? Like no, Evan could probably win that. Let's put that on. Like that was it, and it's because like I personally favored those people, and there wasn't enough of a reason to like come to top of mind as to not do it, if that makes sense. Whereas like if I was in a situation where every viewer paid $5 to watch, and I knew that putting KaMaster Hugs on would lower viewership and therefore revenue in that situation, then that would be top of mind if I thought about making that decision, because I would be like, well, this is a floatier matchup that a lot of people don't like. If we put it on, we will lose revenue. I probably shouldn't do that. So it wasn't in a situation where any negative impact of putting the set on wasn't important enough to become top of mind to not do it. I was like, I'll put my friend set on that is likely to be an upset rather than thinking about putting the other sets on.
Yeah, I think the way you just explained it was a whole lot better. Like saying like, oh, there could be an upset here, because I think your Reddit post can read to some as like there was some malice. There was like, oh yeah, fuck you, I'm gonna put this match on because I want it. Yeah, but like when you when you explain it like that, yeah.
Reddit posts and the negative comments, everyone who interpreted it that way is seeing it as like I was thinking about intentionally spiting them, whereas I wasn't thinking about them. Period.
Yeah,
because it's not worth your mental bandwidth as a TO.
Yeah, why on earth would I care about
mental bandwidth? I'm stealing that.
Top 48. Do you know how much money we made this entire weekend on that stream? Do you want to know the total dollar amount?
I'm ready. I'm curious. Yeah. Let them know.
The Twitch ad revenue clocked in at just under $150.
Oh, okay. So you actually made.
You know how much we spend to produce that stream? All the equipment that goes into that?
Oh boy.
Are you fucking kidding me? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So there's this comment here by like the OP that made this thread. It's like, it's the top one. It's like, well, that's a disappointing response. And he responds with, yeah, gotta agree there. TOs could just watch it in person, and people in other states get boned. Okay, so I have a few problems with this. Oh, I will say that.
Are we really gonna go down the Reddit like?
No. I just want to use this as an example, because I think that this actually is a perfect like segue to, or not a segue, but basically of what I was talking about earlier. TOs could just watch it in person, and people in other states get boned. Like, you're not getting boned. You're seeing a really good set between two other players. Like, oh no, you didn't get to see Smucker's SFET. Like, how are they supposed to predict that upset possibly could have happened? Like,
that's
there's
actually, quick point. I think that's also why people are upset, because there was a bunch of round one upsets that normally, like, I would not have guessed.
To be fair to you, even though I kind of rolled my eyes at Smuk's SFAT not being on stream, I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but definitely that was something like, oh man, I wish I saw that. But to be fair to you, like, no one could have predicted that ahead of time.
And then this second part, the first part of this is TOs could just watch it in person. Now let's just replace the word TOs with attendees. Yeah, that's kind of the point. That attendees could just watch it in person. Yeah, that's kind of the point why they're there. That's the point why they spent a lot of fuck ton of money to watch, like, go all across the tournament and watch whatever sets they choose without having to rely on the stream. Yeah, duh.
I want to ask just like mega quickly. Did you get any commentators that were upset at you at all by any chance?
Nope.
Like, they were all pretty happy with the. No one was like, you didn't tell me I had to commentate this match or whatever. They were fine.
No, all fine. I mean, you know, if a commentator bitches, like, okay, like, next time we just won't pay you, or like you won't commentate. Why on earth? If you're getting paid, like, if you do 3 blocks, I think Vish got paid like $300 or something. If Vish came up to me and complained, like, okay, like, just don't commentate at her tournament and don't get money. Like, it's like, why on earth would I put up with that?
Damn. You thought we roasted people.
On what the complaint was, though, right?
I mean, oh yeah, totally. Like, hey, man, like, we didn't get any water all day, and I'm dehydrated. It's like, fuck you, Vish. You got $300. No, it's like, no, it's like, if you complain, hey, like, we got a lot of floaty matchups on stream. I'm like, well, that's kind of like, you're getting paid to, like, do that. So.
I love how vicious this game goes.
Yeah, so like if I was ever a commentator, Aiden and or Calvin, and you flew me out to an event assuming I was more in that field, and I had to just commentate like 3 straight Michael versus Ice Climber sets, and I was getting paid to do it, you wouldn't listen to me complain about it. Consider that like a great travesty against me.
Well,
I would tell you, Edwin, I would tell you straight to your face, you just got to commentate 3 of the greatest sets of all time.
Michael versus Ice Climbers, just a massive block. We should have an event called like the Michael Gauntlet, which is just like Michael going down the list of icy.
Oh
slaves,
God!
Like Michael versus
Is Michael
versus
the most is Michael the most hated person on the Ice Timers Discord?
Is he like? I think Steve was trying to get us to move on, but what?
No. I'm enjoying this.
The thing about Michael, I can't believe I have to fly him to Dill Park on the grass now.
Jack Zilla is saying in the chat, you had to listen to casters complain about that exact matchup at Full Bloom. That's so funny.
Oh my god.
Anyway, we can, Save, if you want us to move on, we can do
Yeah.
that.
Oh no, because if we move on, I'm getting roasted.
Can we go back to the list of...
No, I know the next topic. Oh, yeah. Save, what does it feel like to be so wrong about Westballz and such a humiliating match? What does it feel to have made the most wrong prediction in Melee Stats history?
Okay.
Oh, that he got his shit pushed in by KaMaster.
KaMaster and Spark.
Yeah. To be fair,
the second best Falco in Melee actually looks more like the third best.
Yeah,
no, he's probably still second best, but
no, Westballz is absolute garbage. Like after I saw he lost that second match, I tweeted that out immediately. Like I'm never supporting Westballz again. But I mean,
you know what the Reddit thread was saying, right?
Oh
like,
yeah,
Reddit was like on KaMaster Westballz, and then it showed that KaMaster won, and then the top comment with like 200 upvotes was like, "Eat your heart out, save us Untitled."
Wait, Calvin, I don't have the bracket in front of me right now, but were you ever worried that like SoCal would get mad because Westballz and Hugs were playing early in bracket or something, or no?
No, because that's just like that was a like winners side top 48 match.
I forget how far into bracket it was.
Yeah, it's like pretty far. So like to skew for when you're seeding the top 16, in my opinion, to skew the seeding based on region is pretty disingenuous.
No, dude, it's okay. I'm not dissing seeding. I
totally. No, like I literally.
We see people in the Melee Stats seed, so we have a pretty good.
I
literally followed your guys' rank to seed the tournament. So
nice.
Let's go.
Nice.
Do we want to get back to my
back to shitting
my
on
abusive relationship with Westballz? Because I was like, oh, Westballz is garbage, I don't need to listen to him again. And then he wins against Wizzy twice at Nudes. I'm like, oh, maybe my boy's back. I can believe in Falco for one more time. Like he can do it. And then
wait, we have 2 Falco mains in this group.
Yeah,
oh no.
But
wait, is Aiden a Falco main? I always thought he was a Fox main.
I play, so people never know what my main is, and it's really funny to hear them like I play Falco and Sheik. And I play
just like the worst.
I play Fox against Ices. So like I play Sheik in like most of my matchups red, and then I play Falco in like 3 matchups, and then I play Fox against Ices. Like, and like that's just the way I like to play the game. Like, it just makes me happier. And like, the only time it sucks is when people like double blind pick you, and that's only happened twice in like 4 years. So.
What about if you're down in a match, or if you're ahead of someone in a match and they start Chino stalling, like while you're up like 4 stocks to 2, the opponent starts Chino stalling.
Oh, like then I just stand on the opposite side of the stage?
I feel like that was a personality.
Yeah, I don't know what you're going for.
I was referencing something that you did to one of my friends. One of my friends who plays Dr. Mario.
Fuck yeah, dude! That's one of my favorite friendlies of all time.
That's what I was referencing.
I don't know if we have time to talk about this. It's short, but it's also hilarious, in my opinion.
Go ahead.
I was playing this Doc at Shine in friendlies.
I know
and
who
I'm
you're
playing
talking
Sheik. And I'm getting, honestly, like I was getting fucked up. And I'm on a rotation with 3 people. So every time I lose to this Doc, I have to get off the setup and wait a match. So finally, I think it's like, I'm into like the 3rd or the 4th game with this Doc. And I'm just so frustrated at this point. So when this happens, like, especially against low tiers, and I get particularly frustrated, I play to make the other person hate the game. Because I want them to...
Oh, the crush special.
No, but he's losing in this instance, so it doesn't even...
So I'm down. Yeah, it's like 3 stocks to 1, and he's up. And this is a friendly with a 3rd dude on the rotation. So I started just Shino stalling, and every time he would approach the ledge, I would run to the other side of the stage, needle, and then Shino stall on the other ledge. And I did this for probably 4 minutes.
Oh my
god. And then eventually, like, I lost the game. But, like, he was, like, visibly frustrated.
Oh my god. You're the worst!
Like, why would you do
that? He plays a friendly with the other dude on the rotation. Like, he plays against the Fox main, wins, and then gets off the setup.
Yeah!
He doesn't want to play me.
Yeah!
And, like,
Downvote!
Yes! Minus 200. Keep him going.
That's like the sickest. That made me feel so good. Because if
that's so
no, if you lose, if you win, it's cool. But if you do that and you lose,
if I can't beat the person, if I have lost control over the win, I'm gonna do the one thing I can control in the game, and that's make the other person have as shitty a time as possible.
That's so terrible.
Hey Aiden, do you have any other comments in the thread? I'm going and downvoting all your stuff. Actually, I'm just gonna go to your profile and downvote everything now after hearing this. Let me just. There we go.
Ultimately, I won because he got off the setup and I had a better time. How come
Okay.
I'm just imagining the other like Fox player on the setup or something being like, "Hey, thanks for getting rid of that Doc player."
Yeah, conspiracy. Yo, fuck that dude. Nobody likes playing against Mario characters.
Honestly, it felt so good, and I remember going to dinner afterwards, and telling. I was at dinner with one of my coworkers, Churros. Or Charles is his name, but his tag is Churros. And and EDK, like Connor the Kid. And I was explaining this to them, and they were telling me what an awful person I was.
Good!
Connor told me the next time we played friendlies, he was gonna Shino stall the entire 8 minutes with his blue bandit. And he said, and I've refused to play friendlies with Connor ever since he told me.
What is this conversation?
You're such a piece of shit!
You know, before you lose all of your rep, let's move on to the next topic.
Wait, hold on. I want to say one last thing.
Oh my god. We didn't even finish talking about that. I said like 3 things about Westballz. You're like, oh, Aiden, let me.
What else is there to talk about, Westballz?
No. Wait. Let me just say one last thing about Wes. So last week, a bunch of people got upset at me. I forget who was in the Melee Stats Discord. I won't name, or actually no, I do remember, and I won't name names. But they told me that I was being harsh on Wes because I didn't take his because I'm skeptical of his long term or how he'll do in the future. And I think while he's still like obviously top 20 and doing, it's impressive that he's still a relevant player. That I'm not going to look too much into his nudes performance because it basically just reflects the top of his expected skill range, right?
And you're saying that someone criticized you saying that, like for not giving Westballz enough credit.
Yeah.
Was it saying?
No.
Okay.
God, no. Yeah, no.
But well, it was part of like a bigger argument. But basically, I was saying that what Westballz was doing, like, or his accomplishment being Wizard of Trice, like that's really good. But that doesn't like drastically alter what I think of Westballz, you know. So like people shouldn't rush to say like he's on a comeback or that like he's trending upwards. It's more like he had a performance that was really he had one performance that was really strong.
Falcon might be up there with one of the most depressing top tier matchups.
and Edwin, I think I kind of made that point in my video as well. Like that, I didn't put too much stock into him winning. Like I was very happy to see him win at nudes, but I wasn't expecting like Westballz beating Wizrobe or like a top 15 player like that to be a common appearance. Like
no, it's not that it's more that like it reflects the top of his skill range.
Yeah,
like Wes is, or we already know Wes is really good at that matchup, and that if he plays Wizzy in bracket, that like he has a good shot of winning. And honestly, one of those times he won because Wizzy SD'd during the middle of a tech chase in the most baffling manner, you know. So
and then he went off stage, missed an edge guard at 0, and then by the time he recovered, he got 0 to death. So that was like basically how that happened.
So I said don't overrate Ka after nudes, but I'm gonna say it right now: don't underrate Wes after Flatiron. He lost 2 best of 3s. One of them was to someone who already beat him before in Spark, and the other one in winners bracket was to KaMaster, who is really good. But more importantly, Calvin, you're on the scene. Can you confirm or deny that KaMaster is smelly?
Oh my god. Did you actually bring this up? Oh my god.
You're not legally obligated to answer this question.
Don't answer that question.
This is a loaded question.
Okay,
You put all 6
hold
bullets
on, let me preface this with I've gone to Ammon is from my local scene. Gone to a lot of tournaments with Ammon at them. He does not normally smell.
Oh.
He did at this tournament.
Oh.
Oh no!
Hey, maybe it was an out-of-game tactic.
Best of 3. That's like 0-100. Like,
Yeah, no, he got the W. He got the W,
Oh,
so yeah,
no.
maybe he psyched Westballz out with it. Like, W's a W, man. Whatever it takes.
No, actually, I kind of like
No.
where I draw the line, dude.
It's
Yeah,
really
smell
rough,
is
'cause,
definitely
like, I don't want to criticize KaMaster in any way because KaMaster is literally. I know people say this about people, and it gets thrown around a lot. But KaMaster is literally the nicest person I've ever met in my entire life. Literally, no one I have met has been a kinder person to just anyone he meets. And so I hate to like say anything critical, but that is
Yeah.
Where are we on this list? Me, Kay, and
Save. How,
no.
Which is it easier for me to send you something on Discord or like
Throw it in Twitch chat.
like so that you could show it on stream?
Yeah, throw the link into Twitch chat. That's a lot easier. Oh,
in Twitch chat.
Twitch
Oh,
chat.
okay,
Yeah.
Hold on.
By the
Also,
way, is it alright if I just go grab water real quick?
yeah, sure. I can ask Edwin a question about Westballz real quick.
All right, let's all
So-
talk Calvin now.
Edwin, do you think Westballz will get a win at Summit? And also, who do you think is favored between Toussaint versus Westballz? Do you think
I think Wes is still favored.
Do you think Westballz can lose that matchup? Do you think Westballz has like what's the odds that Westballz wins that matchup? How much is he favored by? Because
I would take intuitively. I want to say like 70 or 80%. I'm still pretty confident in Wes.
When's the last time
And
Westballz has played a
I think
good
Wes could
puff?
steal a set against the top spacey at Summit.
Mm.
All right, Save. I'm gonna send you a string of images on the Twitch chat.
Yes.
All right, this is stage 1 of the match.
Yeah, please.
Oh my god!
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Here we go.
And
Let me.
this is stage 2 of the match.
Oh no.
And then this is stage 3 of the match. And that's stage 2. And then you have the final stage.
Oh no.
Oh no.
It's just a progression.
Oh no. I don't want to see this last one. Oh yeah, no, I got it.
All right.
No, don't get me wrong, I really love Ka.
Yeah, KaMaster's a beast.
Yeah, he's a beast. But I just thought this was a really funny.
Yeah, it's just
like,
a funny coincidence.
Also, especially like within the argument that we were having in the Discord strictly about this, also makes this even funnier.
Yeah, I don't want you to feel like we're completely insulting KaMaster.
Yeah, no, I just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
God damn it.
So yeah, don't underrate Wes. Don't be too reactionary to Wes about the tournament. He can still pull it together at Summit, and I think he'll get a win.
Now Westballz
Alright,
is
so
garbage.
let's like quickly go through everything else about Flatiron 3.
PewPewU?
So, Zoso came to this tournament. That's pretty impressive. And he beat Rustin, so that's nice.
I'll go into that later.
And Bobby Frizz came to a tournament and actually beat someone pretty good, who was Cyrox. So that was nice.
It was Cyrox's Falco though, just for reference.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
No, his Falco's really good, but just
okay. Well, I guess that makes sense. Bobby Frizz beat Santiago
But
that one time.
I think it's worth saying that like Bobby Frizz was incredibly close to beating Crash, like incredibly.
Yeah, he was, right?
Yeah, he was literally. I heard the third game, Bobby was up 3 stocks to 1, and then Crush just popped off and then won the set.
That's depressing.
It happens, dude.
And also the most depressing result of them all, Rishi beating KaMaster 3-2. We all shed a tear.
Depressing?
Yeah.
I mean, what else? What's the other most depressing?
I was sad.
Rishi beating Smuckers maybe is the second most depressing.
Are you just picking Rishi victories? Dude.
I mean, no. Let's be honest here. Who do you want to win more, Rishi or Captain Smuckers?
I don't want to answer that. I'm an objective. I always root for Marth. You know that. I'll never...
Okay, fine. Rishi or Zoso?
No, I root for Zoso because I know Zoso. So.
Oh, okay, fine, Edwin. All right.
Also, Zoso's a Marth player, so.
Yeah, I know. But no, I just wanted KaMaster to win that, and then didn't. Sad. Because I think he had a shot at beating Smuckers if he beat.
Yeah, he definitely.
Yeah, and so he could have been in top 8, and then Crush has famously lost to Luigi Gigo Shard.
Yeah.
And then he would have faced KJH next.
Crush KaMaster have played before, like not recently, but they played trying to think. They played in an Emerald City.
Oh, okay.
And it went to game 5, if I recall. And
yeah,
Abate and
I think
Crush
I remember that.
Close before too.
Yeah.
I want to mention one other thing. If we're talking about like players who did really well, KJH had a really good tournament.
Oh yeah, KJH like popped up tournament, and he did it without beating a Samus.
Yeah, being Crush and Lob, that's no joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good for sure.
It's not just pretty good, it's almost like really amazing. Like he got 2 wins on people higher ranked than him, according to our and he beat Crush, who's like borderline top 10. So he did really well. And he lost to Crush and Leffen, which are 2 very good losses. So yeah.
What do you take much stock in PewPewU's performance, or do you think it's just kind of a hot run by him?
I think that the fact that he beat Swedish Delight with Fox.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good for him. He's
yeah. So.
I think it spoke, like, it wasn't just a one-off run, in the sense that the way he played across all of his sets, accompanied by the fact that he actually commented about something changing in his mindset, makes, when I think about his future tournament performances, like, it makes him more promising. You could see him start to pull it together against Axe, which you never really, like, I think he definitely could have won the Marth game. And in general, just a really good performance across the board, and beating Swedish for the second time shows the Fox wasn't a fluke or anything. I would really, I think Kevin will perform really well for the rest of the year.
Yeah, PewPewU beating Crush also a good sign.
Yeah, that's a really
and also beating Smuckers after he curb stomped the shit out of Zain at the gang. Although Smuckers did lose to 2 Marths.
Yeah.
But
I think his edge guards looked a lot better against
I think Rishi is different because they trade all the time. So I feel like when you play someone, that frequently,
that's true, right?
Matchup preferences don't really have as much stock.
Good point.
I think I think they kind of take turns beating up on each other, and lately I'm pretty sure Rishi's had Smucker's number.
So actually another thing I wanted to point out here was the early upset. If you look at the seeds, it was Zain versus PewPewU, which isn't really an upset if you really know Zain.
If you look at the Marth Ditto history,
yeah. And that's the interesting thing, right? Because Zain has always been that guy that initially at first was really only known for his proficiency at the Spacies matchups, and he's slowly gotten better versus Peach. He's gotten better versus Samus. He's beaten Duck as well, and he took him really close at Pat's house. He's improving at these floatier matchups, and besides maybe Falcon, which he's still beaten Smuckers before, so it's not really that bad. The one matchup that he has really yet to prove himself in, ever since that he broke out, is the Marth matchup. And I was kind of curious to see, because that whole period where he was just popping off versus everyone is that he actually just didn't run into any Marths, if I remember. He just pretty much avoided every Marth because they either had different brackets or they lost early. And
I remember noticing this because I was looking at, I think it was Genesis 4 brackets, and I was there, and I remember he was 1 hit away from losing to Iceman, and I remember seeing that and then looking across his other Marth Ditto, the few other Marth Dittos that he had. I'm like, wow, this guy is not comparatively, he's not good at this matchup.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if there's one thing to say, I'll just say this really quick. If there's one thing to say, and my personal bias, I think the Marth Ditto might be the worst matchup in the game. I like hate it because I think it's
let me just say I fully agree. I think it's the worst matchup in Melee. It is so it's just one of the few matchups where it will net you greater rewards until you reach a certain threshold, but the threshold is just really high.
I thoroughly believe it's a matchup where determined by who knows the most gimmicks, which is kind of why King's been winning it most of the time. But
no, but I think there's a threshold that you have to cross before like it actually becomes a really solid matchup.
Yeah, and I don't think Zain has really crushed that.
No. I think it's going to take a while for him.
Yeah, and well, he brought PewPewU to game 3 here, so if anything, it's like at least a good sign.
Yeah, I think it's a good sign, but like if you give me Zain versus King in the Ditto, like there is no chance I'm not picking King.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I mean, I would pick in most cases, but yeah, I'm just saying that like Zain has just been an interesting case because he's that just one player that has had that really steady improvement curve that doesn't really lose to that many people below him besides like the occasion outside of region, like doesn't really lose to that many people below him. So seeing him kind of like make that steady progression and possibly break out in the Marth Ditto as well, I think will be potentially interesting to see. Even though I'm not really a huge fan of his playstyle, but you know, that's neither here
I think
nor
his
there.
playstyle kind of hurts him in the Ditto sometimes, and if you ever watch his old sets with Rishi, you can see why. Rishi, back when they used to play a lot, Rishi was fairly positive on Zain, and I think part of that is because Zain is a little too conceding of space, and in the Marth Ditto position is super important, especially because your punishes, while you can get really explosive punishes, which Zain is really good at, they're kind of like 50-50s, where if you mess up or if you guess wrong, then the situation gets reversed, and then suddenly you're on the receiving end of the dynamite.
Plus, if you're at the ledge, edge guarding Marth is like piss easy. It might be the easiest character to edge guard if you're Marth.
Yeah, he is, but I'm really bad at it. It's like a little trickier than people say it is, but if you just like stay very focused on it, it's pretty simple.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, and at that Zain's playstyle is like very edge master-ish, which really works well against certain characters, but works very, very, very not well against Marth, in my opinion. So, because you don't really the risk reward to it, I don't think is very high, because you could literally just get tapped and you could get edge guarded at like 0.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
One thing I want to bring up with PewPewU, do you think his Fox is a sustainable solution against Axe, or what do you? Because I think along with
I think it's
Axe,
more sustain. Sorry. Yeah, continue.
I was gonna say along with Axe, it seems that like playing against Duck, and for all people said about his set against Amsa at SSC 2016, it's like I think he's lost his last 3 sets against Duck. He has like Axe has just been his kryptonite forever. What's a solution there? Does he just have to play better? Is it a new character? I don't know what
so,
it is.
I was thinking about this earlier, and like I remember, I think it was either Tafo or someone else who was like describing how like PewPewU's generation or kind of like group of players were always like more concerned about, I wouldn't say something as cheesy as the love of the game, but they kind of grew up in an environment where like the esports aspect wasn't as prioritized, and there was a lot of that casual Smash Fest kind of like involvement to it and that kind of investment to it, like how like Shroomed will always have that vendetta of never playing space here, kind of those things, sort of like really arbitrary personal rules that they follow by. I think PewPewU being like a master of that kind of diversity, kind of like for his Pandora's Fox Smurf account or whatever, he like plays so many different characters. Like he's and it almost seems like that the way that he plays against certain people by bringing out like Falcon, Fox, and all these different characters besides Marth kind of embodies that sort of like freestyle kind of like on the go decision making that you might make in like a friendly or Smash Fest against someone you're facing. And I feel like PewPewU is like slowly starting to embrace that mentality more, and I feel like that's becoming his comfort zone. like switching to different characters to where he feels more comfortable to like kind of like emulate that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
And I think like PewPewU is like the best example of that at the moment, and I think it'll pay dividends for him because I don't think he has any future against Axe as Marth. I've pretty much like made my dues with that by now with any Marth, and I think that while it's possible that he could improve in the Samus Marth against like Duck and Hugs, I think that maybe even going Falcon might actually work out in the long run, and that if he like trains up for that, because he's just that talented with so many different characters, you just never know. And
Dude, that holiday bash set against Duck looked so mad.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to like psychoanalyze that set, but Duck did not look happy. If any of you know him like personally, then you can.
I don't.
Can't say I do.
Yeah.
Wait, is it PewPewU Duck?
Yeah, PewPewU Duck at Holiday Bash. I think he wins game 1 as Marth, and then he plays the rest of the set as Falcon, and Duck just looks so furious the entire time.
he beats PewPewU.
Yeah, no, he beats PewPewU, but he's not happy. Like,
oh, I also just want to say, speaking of Duck and Marth in the same sentence, let's all just acknowledge the fact that Duck beat Anther at a Michigan local. Duck's Marth beat the Pikachu that beat the moon at Big House.
Yeah,
let's just revel in that a little bit.
Duck's Marth is legit.
That is hilarious to me. But go on, I'm a big Duck fan. He's the reason why I play Salmon. So,
do you want to talk about Axe at the tournament? If we're
yes. So I guess I'll start that off if anybody and people could join in later. I just well, Axe has been slumping lately. I think that would be fair to say. He hasn't had a lot of great wins. His losses aren't terrible, but they're not really suitable for a top 10 level player, especially considering he didn't really have the wins to make up for it. But this was kind of like his redemption back. He beat Bladewise, and then and he shows his proficiency in the Peach matchup as a Pikachu. He stomped Lucky, and Lucky's kind of on his own little down like
roller coaster.
Yeah. And he beat PewPewU, who's like on his hot run, and maybe that's not really a surprising loss. And then he beat Leffen, and that is a legitimately good win. Maybe you can kind of John for Leffen a bit with his Dragon Ball FighterZ like shtick on the side, but like he played phenomenal in the set that he won against Leffen, and I think that's like a sign that he needed to go on, because if not for that Leffen win, I think would have seriously been on the cusp of just not on the cusp of being in the lower end of the top 10. But this was like he fulfilled his duty as the second seed at this tournament. So
I'm trying to pull up because Axe just really hasn't been to much. He really, like, looking back at it, he really hasn't been on much of a downward trend. I don't think I agree with you on that. He just really had a bad full bloom, and like beyond that, it's really just he's kind of not really done that. But I do really agree that this win for Leffen probably is a huge moral victory, at the very least for Axe, but also is going to be tremendously important for his ranking.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say that maybe it's a little bit too much to emphasize downward trend. I do think maybe I was a bit reactionary on Full Bloom, but I still would maintain that his resume before this tournament, I still think he attended enough to the point where I wasn't really super on board with Axe. I was kind of hesitant to say what his future trajectory might be. So I'm just glad that Flatiron repositioned him.
How well did he do at EGLX again?
Sorry?
How well did he do at EGLX?
I don't remember being.
I think he got 9th. I think he lost.
He lost to AMSA, and then what was it, like Crush in winners? Or
yeah,
no, not Crush.
Yeah.
Was Crush even at that tournament? Man, I'm misremembering.
Crush got 7th because he beat.
Oh no, he lost to God, didn't he?
Yeah, let me pull it up.
No, was it SFAT?
I have
Melee stats. We should know this.
Axe's losses.
Yeah, like, why the fuck are we having?
Yeah, Axe's losses this year are Armada, Mango, Wizzy, Swedish, AMSA, Ginger.
Wizzy, that was the.
Yeah.
Wizzy.
Oh yeah, it was Wizzy.
Give me like a second,
and then
I can
at
pull
Full
up.
Bloom, he lost to Ginger and Swedish.
Yeah, like
Ginger and Swedish. Yeah.
I can pull up his year pre this event. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, I mean his losses like aren't if you like lay them out, they aren't that bad. Like it's just a few tournaments where you know, bar Full Bloom, that he lost to like pretty respectable people. I didn't really doubt, like, people kept talking about it, but I didn't really like doubt what his position was. That being said, I did not think Grands at this tournament was going to turn out like he did. Like, I kind of thought the boy was going to get washed in that second set, and it was actually my hope. But
oh yeah, because you're right.
Yeah.
But well, yeah, because I wanted to go home. Like, I want to pack up, and also I like seeing Leffen pop off. Like, I like seeing Leffen play really, really well, and I also hate Pikachu. So.
Yeah, well, I can understand that. Yeah, no, yeah, no, Axe did really well at the tournament, and I had a thought and I forgot it. I'm very embarrassed.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned this on the last show, but I feel like Axe would be so good with coach, like just someone to kind of like keep him.
Hey, he's got rope.
Okay.
Should we call him out? Should we call him out?
Yeah. Call him out. Call him a bitch.
No.
Yeah, call him a bitch.
Should we do it?
Yeah, do it. Call him a bitch.
No, should I do it?
Yeah. Fuck him up. Yeah.
You know exactly what I'm gonna say, right, Rishi?
I don't.
I'm not Rishi. Like, about what he's gonna say about like what happened at Summit, right? Should I talk specifically about that?
Yeah.
No.
Fuck him up. Call him a
I didn't know
bitch.
about this.
No,
Hold
do
on.
it.
Dish it out.
Come on.
Do you think that should stay under wraps, or should I just?
You
like,
already
leave
said
it-
too much. You
leave
gotta
it
go.
down and then tell Aiden about it later.
Will paid me to write a preview for the arcade, and he was nice to me. I don't
All right,
like
Aiden, I'm gonna tell you this story.
Yes.
I want to hear it.
So it's a very short story, but there was like an AMA.
It's definitely not a good look.
There was an AMA done by Hotbid about Smash Summit, and there's this whole controversy about the coaches, right? Do you remember this? Do you know about this at all?
Wait, is this the coach controversy from this season? Or
Yeah, this season.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, you've heard about it, right? So Hotbid did an AMA. It was like, why did you ban coaching or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, we made the decision, and in that thread, he said, like, we literally had a coach come up to us and said, I'm not even here to coach. I'm just here to commentate and be on the couch. And do you know who that was? That was bro. I saw this. That was bro.
Okay, the funny thing about hearing about this is the moment. Hey, if you remember when I read that, the first thing I posted in the Discord was, "This has to be a Marth main." Like, I'm sure he was.
No,
he was probably joking. It had to. But
no, hold on. I want to make this clear. So we were actually talking about this, and this is really funny. We went to McDonald's after Flatiron was over, and there was like a group of us. It was me, Paper Fairy, Lego, Jawanga. Fuck, who else was there?
shout out to Paper Fair.
Blade-wise. Anyway, we were talking about coaches. Oh, and R2D. So we were talking about
shout out to Dilu.
Shout out to Dilu.
And we were like going over like who. Oh, actually, no. This is actually too much of a call out. But...
No, hold on.
Yeah, let him know.
Hold on, no.
Let him know.
No, we're into it now, dude.
No. It's fine. We're not gonna pressure you.
I was thinking this.
No, you got it.
I started thinking this story through.
You can't start the story.
Think of the right thread. Think of the right thread.
There was two sides. This story kind of branches off into a few different directions. There's 2 points that I'd like to make. One, when Crush was in Summit, EGTV did not abuse the coaching role. We didn't send anyone from the org because we're not pieces of shit. If you don't actually coach your player, what are you doing, dude? It's such a you ruined it for everyone. You definitely ruined it for Saint.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Hashtag justice for two.
and the other thing was, there was one in chat that I think was really, really funny.
There we go.
And we were naming off coaches on the scene, and someone said Typo, and I was like, wait, like Typo's a coach. Like I thought he just worked from that. And he's like, no, like he's the IMT coach. And D-Lu was like, wait, could you imagine? Could you imagine Typo sitting down, looking Dewan in the eyes, and telling him that, hey, so Dewan, there's this polling thing in Melee. That like fluctuates. It means that you can't consistently get frame perfect moves. But Dewan, if you learn the timing and how the cycles work, you can do frame perfect lengths or something. And we just all looked at it and we were like, and we tried to think about like Dewan taking that seriously and considering adding that to his game. And we all fucking lost it. Like we're all like laughing so hard. And David explains this like convoluted scenario where
casual reminder that Mango does not understand how frame data works. Like he doesn't know what +1 means, and he doesn't.
I think he downplays it. There's no way he like has no idea.
I don't know.
No. He has an idea of like the advantage, like that.
Yeah.
But if you tell him like this move has +3, he'll be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah.
There's just some players who like aren't into that sort of stuff, and it's like, yeah.
Yeah, but that's crazy to me. Like when I get better, I always feel like I should probably know that stuff. And then here we have like the people beating like those kind of players, and they're like, "What the fuck is frame advantage?"
Yeah, I will say, like, this isn't the same scenario, like, I guess, but those are those players at the top who are, like, doing that successfully, and, like, personally as a player, like, I know almost nothing about frames and percents, and I've, like, just gotten this far because I, like, just tried stuff, and, like, some stuff works sometimes and it doesn't, and, like, that's, like, my game plan. I'm not a top 100 player, so maybe that's reflective of the fact that I'm not there, but I do think that you can play this game from just like learning situations and being comfortable in certain situations, and then just kind of having the execution of that.
Never mind.
Hey.
We're good. Sorry.
So I would like to clarify real quick that Typo is in fact not a coach. He's just like the controller, manager of whatever, just to make sure that.
Well, he's a home run contest guy too, right? So
yeah, there's that too, I guess. But like, he's mainly there to like just keep the controller in shape, and I guess who better person to
bro got it.
For the record, I don't think the coaches who took advantage of the loophole to like better themselves personally are actually pieces of shit. That's definitely something like if I was like not in the circumstances that I am, I probably would use to get into Summit. But yeah, just
Calvin, I just want to quote, enter SSS and SoCal. Be afraid, dude.
to quote Web Smash in the Twitch chat, this is some real classic Aiden shit. I think this was when you were explaining your story at the McDonald's.
It was, and I was about to back out. I did back out of part of it, but you heard the important parts.
Yeah, I did hear the important parts. So we should move on because it's 9:42.
Yeah, we already
like let's move on. Okay, Flatiron was a great tournament. Fucking congratulations, Aiden Calvin, for like running a tournament in like the Colorado scene, like in like one of the comparatively lesser like Smash states. It like hosting like those kind of major tournaments and scenes that don't really have those kind of majors is like always a really cool thing to me as someone who comes from like a scene that comes from like 5 people. So and that's always like the dream thing. So it's like stuff like this for Flatiron that so congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just want to say I really wanted to go.
Oh yeah, shout outs to Apple. Shout outs to the entire Flatiron.
Yeah, shout outs to EGTV. Yeah, I really wanted to go to Flatiron 3, and it sucked that I couldn't make it just because of like a family emergency that happened, and the 21st was the only day the 21st was the day I really wanted to go, and I just ended up being able to make it because of that. But I definitely want to go to Dome Park in the Grass too, and if it's anything like the first one, I'm sure it's gonna be awesome.
So I just had a random flashback when somebody mentioned EGTV. I remember when like the Smash 4 players were like losing their shit over like Crush. Oh my god,
that
really
so...
toxic tweet about Smash 4, which wasn't a good look, I will admit. But remember,
was
like,
funny.
some Keitaro was like, wow, he like, or like J-Tails or some other Smash 4 player was like, oh man, he was so rude to the EGTV like sponsors. Like, he just said, I don't have to be friends with him anymore. I was like, oh my god.
I thought that was so.
That was so funny.
That was hella funny, dude. Because it was like,
Yeah.
dude, I understand why like it would be off-putting to someone who like doesn't understand.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, like Crush.
Did you read my tweet? My response to that?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's so
you
obvious
you
that it's a
called
joke,
it out. Like,
Yeah, it had to be 7 layers of 10. Yeah, I don't know. I was just pretty upset at that whole entire thread in general, but like,
yeah, it was
whatever.
definitely dumb. Like, I don't know. Like Smash 4, Smash 4 can't take the heat. What is there to say? Like,
Save, do you have anything to say about Flatiron?
Nah, I think I just want to forget about Westballz existing. So yeah, if we want to jump on to highlighting, because besides Flatiron, there's Aegis, and there really wasn't anything else last weekend to talk about. A couple of us on the podcast wanted to highlight a couple of players that we think you should be keeping your eye out for.
A few of us, not a couple of us, 3 of us.
Okay,
Yeah, 3 of us.
you're the worst, Edwin.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's like the worst thing. Like, why did you do that?
All right. But okay, yeah. So talking on Aegis, I chose to talk about JakenShaken, who actually got his first top 100 win, and he got 3 top 100 wins. He got 7th at Aegis, put on a fantastic performance. If you may not know him, he's a Marth player. He recently was ranked 4th on the early 2018 Northeast Ohio PR rankings. He's behind 3 other not top 100 players, but sort of on the fringe, Holiday, Boyd, and The Real Thing. His run at Aegis was amazing, getting 3 top 100 wins against Cal, Rick, and Squid. And his
They
losses,
all got Marth.
yeah, his losses were to Plup and Ginger, which that's a fantastic run, and that's a fantastic way to get your first top 100 wins. For comparison, at the end of last year, to Saint, who was ranked 100 on 2017's ranking, he the major points of his resume were Gatsu, Rishi, Darktooth, Hax, a rookie, and Kaon. So with this run, he's obviously not like a shoe-in for top 100, but he's on the radar with that fringe, with getting a lot of solid wins, and hopefully he'll be able to make it out to some majors. I'd be excited to see him at like the big house and see what he can do, especially with an event like that that's so laden with upsets that he could maybe get a few in there and make it through. And I was more wanting to push this over to Edwin because he's the big Marth guy. Do you think we're going to see a lot more of players like Jake, not to undermine his wins, just to being Marth is good against Spaceys? Do you think we're going to see a lot of Zain-esque players who climb through the ranks and make it in the top 100 for being really good about beating Spaceys just because there's so many Spaceys players out there?
I don't know about.
I really hope not.
What'd you say?
I really hope not.
I don't know about climbing the ranks into the top 100, but yeah, I mean, there's many regions with notable Marth players with strong punish games on Spaceys. Those aren't like Zain specific, you know. He's just
but he's like the poster child for he's really good against Spaceys.
He's the corner Marth. He's the post-doc corner Marth kid, but
yeah,
just super good.
It's pretty easy to become a top 100 player when you're playing the best character in the game.
Thank you, Aiden. I'm glad that we have someone else on this podcast to agree with
But I think like any solid Marth player that like practices enough and like actually goes to events on a semi-regular basis can notch up wins if they play well. Like, it doesn't mean you're top 100. It just means that you can compete with them.
And it's kind of like a natural occurrence of the metagame where most people are playing Fox or Falco and you're playing a character that's really good against Fox or Falco. It's like an obvious evolution of...
Yeah, but I mean, like, props to JakenShaken.
I definitely don't want to undermine his wins, just be like, oh, Marth is good against Spaceys. No, like that. Those are still some fantastic wins.
But I want to, but I can't.
You gotta respect it.
They're good wins. It's just like you want to be looking out for a tournament where he can put on a similar performance in literally any other matchup.
Yeah.
Or
like
just doing it on a bigger stage as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Being good at those 2 matchups can get you I don't want
to...
honestly, performances like JakenShaken and like Zain in that sense, kind of like
Zain is a whole level above.
Right, but when he was like still like on that come up, it like really supports that idea of that the tier list should be focused around like the most relevant characters in the metagame, and like you see the results kind of reflecting that, like because like Fox is so prevalent, then that gives like Marth that inadvertent push forward.
Yeah.
And certain characters that little bit of nerf that would have otherwise like shown more prevalence. And I think that that's kind of like an interesting thing that you're starting to see more of that proof of concept with like these kind of people as well.
Yeah, I kind of, not to like jump to another game, but I play a lot of Hearthstone, and the way that like the meta evolves as an expansion comes out is people play the best decks, and then people start playing the best decks that counter those decks, and then people start playing the decks that counter that. It's sort of like a cyclical nature of that. And maybe the melee metagame isn't evolving at that point. And also, as tier list as a concept, I don't really like them. Especially like the evolved point that melee is at this point. I think it's just people's opinions that really don't matter. Like I don't understand the point of them at this point. I don't like tier list as a concept.
You're really gonna let me like talk about tier lists and then immediately go?
I just don't like. I think the time spent thinking about ranking people on tier lists could be spent better doing anything else related to melee. Like I think it's just. Even though we're a part of things, I make videos that rank people and talk about tiers of players,
yeah,
so I'm kind of roasting myself. But
yeah, I hate ranking.
Yeah, no, I like ranking, but I don't like tier lists. I'm dumb.
Just the last thing I have to say about JakenShaken is that I think it actually, I've actually never heard of JakenShaken before this tournament, and I was very surprised because I usually hear about most players. But I just like literally never heard of him before, and then I think it kind of reflects about just the hidden boss nature about Ohio. They're like really stacked.
Yeah,
there's just like
so good.
Yeah, there's just like so many random hidden bosses from Ohio. They might be like that hidden boss like Midwest state. Like they have the real thing who like crushed people at the National Arcadian, and like the Fizzle Boy and like.
The god, Hanky Panky.
Hanky Panky, the god. and back in the day, they had 4%. And it's like, and now you have like JakenShaken, which is like a really good sign for like these up and coming players. Like Ohio is really like putting themselves on the map to be one of the strongest.
Cal as well.
Yeah, and Cal too. So I just think that's pretty interesting. Should I move on to mine? Or does anybody have anything to say about Jaken?
I don't have any.
So I'm going to be talking about the newly sponsored by Fly Society, Kalamazhu, so Kalamazhu. So I'm gonna call out Practical Tasks a little bit here.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah, well, not really a call out, more like a quote, and you can take it as you will. And Practical Tasks was doing this little project when the top 100 Meom ranking coming out like this coming year, and he was like doing a combo video of the people that were like on Meom top 100.
Oh, I know where you're going.
And he got to Kalamazhu, and he was like, "Why does this player never do anything cool?" Like I cannot find any cool clips of him doing. Is he like the ultimate execution test? And yeah, I think that's really funny. And honestly, I think that only makes me more of a fan of Kalamazhu, because I remember when Kalamazhu first broke in, and he was like this Peach main who made that splash at Big House 4, and he beat Kirby Kaze, he beat Lucky, he beat like all these crazy players, and then lost to Hax, who was like the top 10 player at the time.
That set was really close, by the way.
Yeah, it was totally winnable. Every game went to last game, last stock, high percent. And and everybody, when he lost, like he looked really disappointed. He walked off, but as he was walking off, the entire crowd stood up and gave him a round of applause. And Scar said, "You have earned the respect of everybody in this room," because it was so clear that Kalamazhu put in so much effort. He was like note taking, like before the test, like the stream archive showed it that he was doing that in the background of tournaments. He was like the epitome of that hard work. But
he also fell asleep on. That was the other thing.
He also fell asleep once. Yeah. So I just was like a really big fan of Kalamazhu, and he had a much more quiet like years since then. He hasn't really made like significant impact, and he's moved to NorCal since then. But this year, these past few months, he's been doing like phenomenally well. He's been doing like so he does pretty well at NorCal monthlies. He's beaten Ralph and Rocky and all these all like those NorCal people who are like NorCal's a really stacked region.
He's passed up a Zoso for like the first time in a long time.
Yeah. I mean, and at Nudes, I will say he kind of fraudulently got 9th there because he beat Rhymo and then like and lost to like Hungerbox and Shroom. So I guess
he lost to Hungerbox and Shroom to consecutive tournaments, Full Bloom and Nudes.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
Bad.
And then at Spartan, which is the opposite of the Arcadian that NorCal likes to host, he beat Shroom at that tournament.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and he at Genesis so Genesis 5 he actually didn't do very well but at like he's been doing well at these tournaments, like at Full Bloom he beat Luna, and at Flatiron he beat Bladewise and Homemade Waffles.
I think he definitely has that argument for like he's kind of like he's leveled up a lot in the past like few months in particular, and is like definitely that fourth best Peach now in like my mind.
Yeah, he does have some kind of questionable losses. So questionable in fact that I actually think they're kind of funny who he lost to. So Flatiron he lost to Rishi, which is whatever. That's like Rishi's very good at the matchup, but like at SSS Blood for Blood too.
Oh, he lost to 2 Ices there, didn't he?
Yeah, he lost to 2 Ices. He lost to Diskid Bookie and Nintendude, and he got 3-0'd by both of them.
That's so funny.
Yeah, and he beat Spark at that tournament, so it wasn't like a bad tournament. He just had really weird losses at that tournament, and then at Genesis 5 he got he unfortunately got puffed, which is a fate that you wouldn't want to wish upon any player, especially a Peach main. So he lost in pools to Big, and then he lost in he lost pretty early on, or not early on, but he lost before top 64 to Smash Bob SquarePants. So you know, it's pretty rough out there for your boy, because that's a really hard matchup for Peach to get good at.
I've just been really impressed with his results, like in general, and like you know, he's had like a few unfortunate circumstances, a few slip-ups, but he's going to a lot of tournaments and has like raised the bar of consistency to be 4th in NorCal, which is like a really good achievement in my mind, because NorCal is like still incredibly stacked, and in my mind also, and I say this as someone from Washington, he's definitely like above Teddy currently.
You think so?
After Flatiron, I would say he's above Teddy.
Yeah, he beat him in the head-to-head. He has the better results at the moment. To be fair, Teddy hasn't really gone to much, but
yeah, I don't think Teddy is like doing awful right now or something.
Yeah.
It's just, like Teddy doesn't have as good of results.
Yeah.
So.
And I also should mention the Mango. I know people like to write off that tournament because a lot of people were drunk, and you know that's very fair. And he beat a drunk Mango, so take that as you will. How impressive that is, I'm not really sure. It's really hard to say. But he beat Army, which is a good rebuttal to.
Great for him. Great for him.
No, wait, no, that was Swedish Delight. My bad. So, no,
never mind.
He beat Okami BW, which is like, you know, a pretty good win. I guess a lot of people who are newer to the scene might not know who Okami BW is. He popularized shield dropping with Axe, but you know that's neither here nor there.
Wait, was that Okami or Sung? I thought it was Sung.
Oh well, Sung and Okami.
It was Okami and Sung.
Okay. It was Sung, Okami, and Axe were like the 3 people who were like really popularized it. And then he beat Fiction, and then he beat SFAT, and then he beat Cyrox to make it to 2nd. And those are like really impressive wins. And I don't think any of them were drunk that tournament.
Yeah, I think so. People like to be picky about this and like we got to write off the tournament or we got to count it all. But like, can't we just like count the sets that were played by 2 people who weren't drunk?
Yeah.
Like, people like to talk. We had this discussion forever about the Foundry, and I do think Foundry results have some weight. Like a good example of this that I always think of is like Silent Wolf historically like never drank at the Foundries. Like he would always compete, and when Flash was in.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
I
was-
was gonna
that's
say
exactly
that. I
what
was
I
thinking
was
of the
thinking.
exact
Dude, you're
example.
gonna tell me like Flash, Silent Wolf doesn't count as like a real set because like other people got wasted at that tournament, and I think the same thing for Cyrox Keizu is like if neither of them were drunk or like inebriated like whatsoever, then like why wouldn't you just why wouldn't you just count the set?
Yeah, I would agree.
Cyrox beat him. Cyrox beat him before, and and those sets are really good. Those Cyrox I strongly recommend if you haven't seen them, you should check it out. Those are.
Oh
really
man, I miss Flash. Why you got to do that to me? Now I'm just like.
Did you ever see? I asked him on Twitter like, "Hey, we'll fly you out to Don't Park in the Grass," and he said no, because he doesn't want to play anymore unless he can. He wanted to be the best, and if he couldn't devote the time required to be the best, then he didn't want to play at all or something.
Yeah, it's so depressing because I was a huge fan of him. He's the reason why I started writing those Japanese posts back in the day.
Yeah, that guy is hella good. He's
Yeah.
he's part of why I switched to Sheik for a temporary period of time.
Yeah, I'm like a huge fan of that guy. It's just like, and just imagine if he just won that Japanese tournament that Shippu won. I mean, I love Shippu too, but like, if he won that tournament that Shippu won, then he would have been flown out to Apex.
Or the one that Remen won.
Dude, the one that Remen won is so funny in hindsight because people just forget about it. Like people forget that was actually a big deal because it got Remen. Yeah.
I can't.
God.
Like, that always because like Remen. What bothered me about it is Remen won it, but he was like already basically retired at the time. So it's like it's kind of like, what's his name? Who's the New England Ice Climbers?
Spiller?
No. Numbers.
Infinite Numbers.
Oh, numbers.
It's kind of like
Rich
Infinite
Boy Rich.
Numbers.
Yeah, I forgot numbers.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Infinite Numbers having a region shell out for him to go to Summit and then quitting, saying he doesn't like competing. Way to rip off your entire region, dude.
Look, Rich Boy Rich is back. But
Yeah,
not-
he's
Didn't
back.
he like play Fox and like Sandbag or something?
Well, he's actually
his
beaten good
Fox
players. Yeah, who did he beat that was pretty good at
at Fight Pit. He beat someone good at Fight Pit.
Yeah, he beat someone good. I was like surprised.
Mhm.
Hold on, Fight Pit.
He also is he's positive on the rest of New Hampshire.
Yeah.
whatever it's worth. Except for Kalvar. Kalvar
Yeah.
beats him. I'm pretty sure.
Rich Boy Rich. He beat.
He beat Polish.
Polish.
He beat Polish, and then he beat Cobb. He beat Cobb. That's who he beat.
I have some respect for it for sure. Like the Remen example, like it's cool that he apparently he wasn't even at that tournament for the qualifier. Like he just happened to go to a tournament and then like he won it. And
Yeah.
but it just kind of sucks to like other people who like really wanted the opportunity and like were arguably better players at the time, but like he managed to scrape it together for one event and then like never really go to anything afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't hold that against.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold that against
think
him.
that's
I when you look at the
I
bracket,
see what you're saying though.
when you look at the bracket of that tournament, in my personal opinion, I don't think actually that many good players went. Flash didn't go to that tournament. Gucci didn't go to that tournament.
Gucci was retired at the time, wasn't he?
Gucci quit for a while.
Well, he doesn't really retire, more so than he just goes on hiatuses. So take that as you will. So there's just like I think the best player there was maybe Konatori, and then Amsa was still at that phase where he was just losing to everybody. So
Yeah.
like,
That's like definitely understandable then.
yeah. Yeah, it was just like if like there was better players at that tournament, then yeah, I would definitely agree as like race. But then if you think about it, I kind of feel like yeah, they missed out on the opportunity, but I'm also a pretty big advocate of like also like earning that qualification too. And if they weren't able to beat a retired Netherlands player in their own region, then I think that speaks a lot.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, do you
No,
guys
no,
wanna
but don't
move
get me
on?
wrong. I'm a really big fan of Japan as you.
Yeah.
Okay, just for the sake of time, do you guys want to just move on to the next?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
was
seems like
about
a
to-
goal.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm bringing up two Marth players. Surprise. Both of them are. The first one is Kalvar, who is the current #1 in New Hampshire, and I think he currently like is known in the national scene among the more veteran players for being an absolute beast against ice climbers. He beat Nintendude at Genesis, and he also beat Deshizoas on another note, but that's kind of his calling card. But if you look at his resume, it's actually very good. I got this directly from him, so the numbers may be off, but per Kalvar's account, he's 1-1 with Ryobeat, 1-0 with Maybe, 1-0 with Stango. He's 0-1 with KJH, but he lost in a Game 5 set. He's 1-0
with Mango.
Yeah, he's 1-0 with Nintendude. 0-1 with Santiago in another really close set, and he's 1-1 with Slox. And yeah, I mentioned beating Deshizoas, right?
Yeah.
And I believe he's positive on the second guy that I'm going to bring up, which is Zoso. But just a quick rundown of Kalvar's result, like placings: 49th at Genesis 5, 9th at Fight Pit 8, 7th at the Gang, where he also beat Suish Delight's Falco for whatever it's worth, and he got 4th at We Tech Those Threes. So I think looking at Kalvar's resume and he's built for himself in the scene, I think like he definitely looks on the come up for being either bottom end of top 100 or just outside of it, just because his matchup spread looks to be really good, except for like maybe Fox, because he's beaten Crush before, but his record against him is overwhelmingly negative. But that's because Crush is really good, you know.
Yeah.
Like I can't hold that.
Crush is on that like everyone.
But yeah, so that was my first player of note. The second player of note is the guy that traveled to Flatiron 3 and got 17th, Zoso. So just to recap his Flatiron, he lost to Esam and Rishi, but he also beat Chef Q, Napkins, OKP, and Rustin, which I think are all like pretty. I think Chef Q brought him close, like to Game 3 or something. But those are all still like pretty good. Like
he beat the villains.
Yeah, outside the top 100, but still like very, very respectable players.
I'm glad he beat OKP.
And with it, and he actually won CT GamerCon 2 not too long ago. He beat Bonfire, Thorn, Smucker, Slug, Vortex, and Kalvar in a tournament.
It's super impressive.
Yeah, that's actually
That was
one.
a healthy tournament. I went to go check the results. Like, holy shit, so what? Like,
especially since Smuckers, if I'm not mistaken, that was a month after Smuckers completely whooped on Zain at the Gang Host Melee tournament, a tournament I went to. But
no, we will never not bring that set up. That set is amazing.
It was just so brutal. Like, even as a Marth player, I had to respect it. It was so sick.
Dude, I love the way Gang turned out, dude. I was so happy it ended like that. Other than the fact I lost $50, but I love everything.
Yeah, but yeah,
I'm not happy how that turned out because I wasn't able to go to the Gang.
Yeah, so Kalvar is number 3 in New England right now. Zoso didn't make the PR because he wasn't active enough, but he looks to be active again. He's the unofficial best in Rhode Island. So the question I want to pose to you guys, without going to like the details of comparing their playstyles, who do you think is better right now, and who do you think will be better at the end of the year?
Kalvar's better right now, but I bet Zoso will be better at the end of the year.
I think Kalvar is better now. Zoso will quit by the end of the year. I mean, that's my honest opinion.
I mean, yeah, you're free to have it. Look, I like know Zoso kind of on a semi-friendly basis, so like he definitely seems a lot more serious about competing, and I think in region he's shown a lot of really good signs. At a recent Hall of Gaming, he took a set off Slox, and he also beat Lint in their much anticipated rematch from 2 years ago. He also took a set off Crush for whatever that's worth.
I believe in Kalvar's trajectory that even if they both lasted to the end of the year, I think Kalvar would still make it out in the end. Zoso, when he was more active, I was kind of like, he was also always that player that almost did things but never really quite really broke that barrier, except at that one Zenith. So I think maybe it's just because of my biased perception of that I just believe in Kalvar more and the new generation of Marths. But that's just my opinion. I hate that we're talking about Marth so much.
I love it, dude.
Edwin's plan.
No, I think Zoso's like experience and fundamentals are probably a little more grounded than Kalvar, but Kalvar is kind of like when I watch him play, he kind of he kind of comes from like the same line of Marth as even someone like, this is gonna sound weird, but someone like the Moon, like but with a lot of knowledge of new age tech. Like obviously there's the whole joke that he's a quote unquote tech chasing pussy simulator but he is very good at tech chasing.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, no.
So it's like a running joke in New England. But
oh, I see.
But like
it's a Marth main thing we wouldn't understand. Yeah.
He hits pivots semi consistently. He's very good and against like he has a lot of experience against Sheik and Falcon. He's like a technical Marth player, very good by the ledge. He has a solid punish game. If anything, I actually think Fox is one of his quote unquote like weaker matchups. But I think his skills translate very well to the national stage, where I think like he's good enough to where I think he can punch above his weight class very well. Whereas Zoso, I think, has like he has a better foundation for his gameplay just because he's been playing so long. Like a lot of people don't know this, but Zoso is I would cite him as one of the biggest reasons why Crush is so good in the Marth matchup, because he used to be a really big thorn in Crush's side. Like when they played all the time New England, Zoso would just destroy him in grand finals, along with beating Mafia and everyone else in like 2014. And his neutral game just as a whole across most matchups is so great. I actually think like Zoso's biggest weakness from what I've seen of him is his edge guarding, which I think is fixable. But I just think comparing the two is really interesting.
Yeah, YCC. I was thinking the same thing.
That was a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. So Save, what's your opinion on? I think that's actually a really good question. What's your personal opinion on Kalvar versus Zoso by the end of this year?
Well, but I really don't have any like background knowledge on the two beyond what we've just discussed here. So I'm a firm believer in not expressing an opinion unless you have all the data in front of you and just kind of analyze it. Yeah. So
okay, different
you
question.
Mean like what you're supposed to be holding this podcast for?
What? No. Yeah, like I
fuck Edwin sign. Fuck
yeah,
Edwin sign.
you guys know a whole lot more than this, so I'm going to I'm going to defer to you guys because you know a lot more about this. I'm much relatively newer to the scene than you guys, and I don't want to like blindly express an opinion that I'm not 100% certain on. Like saying that like Westballz hasn't fallen off. Like I would never do such a thing.
Yeah, he's already.
No. Yeah,
that's fair.
You would never put that on your YouTube
this time.
ads.
Yeah, no, but yeah, go ahead.
I have a different question though. Okay, a modification of that question.
Yeah.
Who would you want to be? Who would you prefer to see better at the end of the year?
I mean, just because
Westballz. Edwin, that's. Go ahead, Edwin.
No, I was gonna say they both play like very opposite sides of the same coin too. Like they're both very neutral game heavy, like kind of conservative in the combo game. But Zoso, I think like he relies more on like ambiguous positioning and like dash dancing and moving. Whereas if you ever watch Kalvar play, like he pretty much like holds his ground really well. Like a lot of fair, a lot of down tilt, a lot of hitbox throwing.
Perfect, Sean. Who did Smuckers lose to at Nebs today? If you're still here, type in the chat if you do that. Sorry, just go on. So should we move on to the Melee Stats website, or does anybody have anything to say?
Yeah, cool. So Edwin, this is the new Melee Stats website is kind of your baby. So what exactly did you want to talk about the website? Like the future of it, what you have planned, what you think, trying to get a gauge on what people are interested in for the site. Yeah, like what?
He lost to robotic fish? What?
No, what? Robotic
Are you serious? What the fuck?
Are you serious?
Oh my god!
No way!
Are you serious? Holy shit! Oh my god! Oh my god, that is an L to take home and back. Oh my god!
Damn!
Oh
damn,
shit!
Fish out here taking names.
I'm so glad I asked that question. Oh my god! Holy shit!
Damn!
Oh my god!
Shout out to Robotic Fish beating Smuckers.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Dang!
This is why local results don't matter.
All right. Give the man some credit. All right, sorry. What were we talking about?
Oh yeah, so
Melee Stats website.
Yeah,
sorry, I got sidetracked. That was
Yeah, so like Edwin, you're kind of this is your baby going behind it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, what's your plan, your vision for like everything comes out perfectly. There's what does the Melee Stats website look like in 3 months, 6 months, a year?
So, one of the things I've been struggling with is how to balance sort of integrity of the website in terms of like our freedom to create content of what we want with our ability to monetize it. If you guys have followed my other website, my main blog for a while, I've kind of made a creative decision not to monetize off of it just because I treat it like a hobby. But you know, over the last 2 years, it's been really hard to sort of justify myself that hobby of writing and investing so much time in Melee, even as I'm not active as a player. And because I've struggled with that, and I've seen people in our friend group within the Melee Stats group put a lot of work and not really have anywhere to necessarily show it openly. I created the website kind of as a central hub for any collaborative projects we do together, or any projects each of us pursues that we want to publish somewhere. So obviously there's something as simple as a Melee history that I could write, or even that someone like Pika could write if you were to ever do it. Like, but like if Kay wanted to write something about the Melee scene in Korea or Japan, like it would be fine. It's okay for him to write on Reddit. Like obviously, Kay, that's your choice. That is one avenue you can genuinely have. But like I thought it would be good for all of us as a collective, because we all do work together and give each other peer feedback a lot, to have a central hub to kind of show to the public and let them know that like we do things in the scene and that we deserve recognition for it.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the time Melee Stats, when people bring it up, it's like this shadowy organization that rigs brackets and make Mewtwo King play Ice Climbers players. Like, and it's partially that. But
I mean,
also,
I like that image a lot. I like that image a lot.
The backroom boardroom of Edwin sitting in the dark, just like, yes.
Kill the Marth player.
But I really like the idea, especially because there's a large group of people, and it sometimes can be hard to keep track of all the projects we're working on, and especially if like new people come in the fold or leave the fold. And I think the website, in my vision, it's a great aggregate for, I'm interested in Melee so much that I also enjoy the stats behind it. Like it's to like an ESPN website for Melee, even though they have like esports sections, but this is like Melee website.
So I'm not gonna, I don't have anyone in particular, but I just think there's just to be frank, I think there's a lot of shit out there there's a lot of garbage out that anyone can read on Reddit. And I'm not saying this because I think I'm above people who post on Reddit or anything. Like I rely on Reddit for my audience, you know? I just think there's a lot of garbage that's out there, and I think that a site of people who are really emotionally invested in Melee to the point where we would do basically free work in terms of making sure our knowledge is up to date. I think providing a website like for that is genuinely a community need. Like, I'm not doing it because I think I am better. I'm doing it because I think we genuinely provide a service that people would want to see. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. I think the website was a good design choice. I think it was a long time coming. And I like the option that's there. I've always thought that I would keep the posts that I make kind of like grounded, because I want to keep it as something that I don't really monetize at the moment, or
I felt that.
Yeah, and so I just felt like just doing that for fun would probably be the best way, just to like keep it not as like a personal obligation for me. But otherwise, I really support the Stats website. Really work out in the end.
And I'm really proud of the project that we put out with the.
Yeah, congratulations on everything Smash History has done in the past year. You've done a lot of great and very impressive things.
Yeah, no, that's true, and I just I know Melee Stats, like our members have done a lot individually, whether it's basically Wheat being groomed to be Tafo's replacement in the scene when Tafo that's basically with CLG. I know with things like Save's videos, like obviously his YouTube channel is important for that. But like if Save ever wanted to branch off into editorial writing, like that hub would still remain there. It'd be a good place for Ambi's projects if he ever wanted to pursue something and post it on multiple places. I just think overall, like our unit I don't want to say unit because that kind of romanticizes it, but I feel like we have been romanticized by people in the know about us, and I just feel like it's like we are a group with, even if a little bit of influence, like it's good to have a place where we can share our work and get honest feedback and better our work for it.
Yeah, and I think something like this not only is good for, like, speaking like from someone in it, it's not only good for us as a brand, but I think anything like this helps legitimize Melee as an esports, and then that also esports as a whole. Because a lot of people will party game Melee, they'll talk it down, 17-year-old game, it's gonna die. And I think anything like this, any sort of any person who puts in like creative effort into keeping this scene alive is good for the community as a whole, and having a hub where we can share some of the highest quality content, be like, oh, it's just a party game, and then show them this top 100 all-time list. Like, bigger esports don't have something like this, and they also don't have this huge grassroots community that just refuses to die no matter what is thrown at us, which I think is amazing. And whatever we can do to keep it alive, I think this website, and not to like, it feels like I'm giving like a brand pitch for like, oh, this website's gonna save the world, but it's keeping Melee alive is something we're trying to do.
So I want to bring up one thing that's been particularly a little internal dilemma for me, and it's related to the point that you're bringing up, and it's something that when the reason I brought up monetization before is because Melee has reached a point where I do want to write about Melee or be involved in some way as a community leader, like whether it's helping tournament organizers seed tournaments, whether it's actually helping organize tournaments or writing about them. It's kind of reaching a point where I do want to do it like genuinely full time, because I have been treating it like a second job. And I think a lot of us, maybe not all of us in Melee Stats, but I know a lot of us spend over 20 or even 30 hours a week thinking about Melee, or thinking about Melee content, or even thinking about how to get involved. You know, you don't even have to be a member of Melee Stats. Melee like really is a lifestyle, and if you're working on something that is Melee related, I've talked to other community figures about this, and I feel like it's kind of like a paradox where if you want to make it big in Melee, like either as a player, community figure, or leader or anything, you almost have to like not care about the outcome. Like you have to do it just solely for the love of the game. But at the same time, like when you do it for so long, sometimes you can't help but think of how much better or how much your quote unquote worth is, or how much time you're putting into it is being like quote unquote wasted. Like you have to deal with those insecurities all the time as a content creator, as a community figure. And yeah.
Speaking of Melee never dies, at Nebs today, Captain Jack 2-1 DA West.
Oh, that's such a great old school battle. Captain Jack, let's go.
I think it was actually 2-0. Yeah.
Yeah, West he's been getting a lot better lately.
Yeah. Blast to the past, right?
Yeah, Captain Jack beat I Love Bagels also at the Jack Boss Rush. That's actually that's a solid win for him.
He got some pretty good wins in Japan too.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to be like a mood killer or anything, but I do think that's, and I guess Calvin, I guess you're like from our perspective, like you work in the esports industry. So I guess I want to ask you, do you ever sometimes have those moments of kind of recognition where you realize the position you're in, and you're sort of wondering how much longer this roller coaster or ride is going to go for?
Yeah, I think I'm luckily in a place right now where, for work, my aspirations of working in esports existed prior to me finding Melee, and where that was always my intention, like before I was involved in this community at all. And now I'm at a company that lets me work in the industry as a whole instead of just working in the Smash scene, while also letting me be involved in the Smash scene still. So I think I'm like very lucky in terms of the situation that I have. I have thought about like just kind of like the amount of effort I've put in from like an EGTV perspective, like the amount of effort we put into like Smash Fence and like how it's gonna pan out. You know, is this worth it? Is Melee going to go downhill? But I also see EGTV as like a multi-faceted operation where, you know, we've pretty much like dragged the Splatoon community up until what it is today. And there
I thank you for that. I myself am a
very true
player.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. That's and like the new opportunities with Smash 5 will exist. And I don't really think Melee will go away. I think there's like concerning things about, you know, the influx of new players and my hopes for what the game can be in the future. But you know, even if Melee isn't a sustainable business model for the next like 10 years or whatever, I think it's worth being a part of as long as I still like the game, like want to compete. I do think about like the amount of effort put in and like whether or not it's like worth it, like whether or not this is going to pan out. But I guess I'm luckily in a situation where I'm already in a job and a career that I'm financially secure in, that I don't really like worry about me wasting time, because it's a business and I'm running like with Eric, if you guys know who that is. Like, we're running a business and we want EGTV to grow and be successful, but it's also secondary to my primary job at the moment. And so even though it's a business and like a monetary endeavor, it also is sort of a hobby, and I still like that hobby. So
yeah,
thanks for the honest answer.
Yeah,
I actually got a lot.
I think it comes. Edwin and I are kind of both trying to, and most people in Melee Stats are trying to move Melee into less of a hobby or a part-time job into a full-time job. Edwin's probably more on the clock than I am, because I've got essentially.
Well, you guys know what I'm working. You guys know what I'm working on. So
and I'm very excited for that.
I hope you guys can do that. I've thought about a few ideas. I'm starting to get into my old hobby of like video editing again, and like.
Don't take my views. Stuff. Don't. I need those.
I think my project is like very different from what you.
Yeah, no.
So, I think that's good. I do think like your guys' efforts and the people's engagement with the scene, and a willingness to continue to like create content around the game and like push narratives and make tournament experiences like really, really good and worth coming out to. That'll all be like very key in sustaining the community in the next few years, because we're in a like kind of stagnant period right now, where event entries are sort of like shrinking, and I think it's predominantly to do with like there isn't as many new players coming into the game, and there's a lot of players who have played for now like say like 4 years or 5 years who don't want to keep entering because it's just not their thing anymore, or like they haven't seen the results because I
think age is a really big thing too.
Yeah, you just kind of like grow out of it. Like you don't have the time for it anymore, or like you're frustrated with. I think I know a lot of people who just like, they never got as good as they wanted to, which is unfortunate because it's like a relative thing where I think people are frustrated with, fuck, I'm still going 3-2 or 2-2 4 years later. But in reality, it's because everyone got so much better. Like if you're going 3-2 and had a national in 2018, you would probably be going like pretty far out of pools in a national in like 2013. So yeah, I don't know. I'm personally worried about the like, you know how like the Smash Doc and and EVO 2013 sort of like cultivated a new generation of players and created that huge influx. We need to figure out what the next thing is that kind of brings an influx, and then how do we sustain an influx of players? Like how do we keep introducing new people to the community so that the game lives on? It's kind of like, the way I think about it is kind of like Little League soccer or like basketball. It's like you get into soccer at a young age and like you're introduced to it, you play it for a long time, but you don't play soccer forever unless you become like a professional, right? Or play at some sort of top level. But the scene of soccer doesn't really shrink because there's always new kids getting into the game. And then those people who like got too old for it or like didn't want to compete anymore, like are still kind of exist in some sense in the scene, in the sense that they keep up or they watch games here and there.
Or their kids play it. Their kids play it.
And their kids play it, right? And that's kind of my hope for Melee is we can figure out ways to cultivate new generations of the scene. And I think content like what you guys are doing is like a really big part of that.
Yeah,
and
just give me like another year and a half, and I'll try my best to get the first half done. I don't know about the sustaining part. That also is partly out of our control because of Nintendo. That's one big.
We're in such a hard situation, and
I do think it's difficult. Hold on. So I do think it's difficult of Nintendo, but I think that gets beat. It's like it's a dead horse that we just like beat way too often. We are so much better as a community by the fact that Nintendo never got involved.
That's very true. That's very true.
And I think
I just mean in terms of like $1 million like prize pots and sustaining it but in terms of like our freedom as a community to do what we want, I completely agree.
Yeah. I think even the community and like people playing is a really big issue. I think a big issue it's hurting the game a lot is the lack of there's a nice decent group of sponsors that want to come into Melee, but unlike like say League of Legends where you could have a keyboard sponsor, a computer sponsor, what is there to go? There's monitors and there's adapters if you really want to like push it to that, or GameCube controllers. There's not the profitability, like the people who want to sponsor Melee. It's really hard finding that niche, which I think that's the most pressing issue for Melee is that we need to find some way. I mean, we do have a good demographic of people who play games, but that's not enough to cut it when they could spend this money better on sponsoring another esport, which I think is the biggest issue we got.
I think that money is like important for like esports and like streams and events being able to be funded, and inadvertently that like helps the scene, right? But like, in what way does like good sponsorships really boost the influx of people in the scene? And it's kind of like, just because the World Cup is sponsored by Coke doesn't really make a difference in like whether or not kids get introduced to soccer. It's because there's community organizers at a very local level that have a little league soccer league and like put that league on, coaches volunteer. Like the image that I've always had for Melee, and I did this freshman year of college, is I literally just put a CRT in the lobby and started playing, and I literally cultivated a Melee scene in my dorm of, I think, about 12 new competitive players that were all brand new to the game, and other people played too, but ended up with about 10 or 12 people who like still play to this day, and all because like someone put it right into their hands at like a very local, boots on the ground level. And there needs to be some sort of effort at that scale where like people introduce Melee at like, there's a high school club, there's a college club. Those are the type of efforts that actually get new people into the game, rather than
there's like scholarships for young players also. Like that's already starting to become a thing for other games.
Yeah, I mean that'd be really cool too, right? Then there's some sort of incentive to get involved. But I just like, high-level sponsorships are good for the scene in a different way, but don't actually solve the problem. Like, we can throw fucking Kappa Noodles money at Melee forever, but, like, it's not going to introduce the game to new people.
But I do think, like, the lack of profitability is really bad for, like, say, if Edwin had the same, like, level scaled up to a bigger esport and, like, what he's writing, like, the notoriety he got for making the top 100, he would have a full-time job easily. Like, and how commentators at events have been talking about recently, like, how it's just such a bum job. You put in so much work, you're well-researched, you're a really good commentator, and you get $300 for it in a nice weekend. Like, it really stunts the growth. And I do see, like, getting the boots on the ground, getting those small communities great, but getting the big names, like having the Tafos. Like, we don't have as many, like, big names in the community. Like, you could go down, like, a League of Legends, and there's so many, like, really well recognizable commentators and players and coaches.
Isn't that just because there's more people to be fans of them, though? Like,
but I think it's like a symbiotic relation. I think it's a symbiotic relationship. Whereas, like, if people are being paid money to make this content, and then that content gets out to more people, and then there's more players, and there's more players, they build off of each other. And I think there's the two.
I want to ask you this, like, for League, if we use League as an example, I think Rivington is like a great commentator. but how many people do you think Rivington, as a like personality and commentator, actually got people into the game? Like, how many people do you think like heard or found Rivington and got into League because of him? Or do you think it's because people cultivated this culture where like, hey, let's all play League together and get into the game, and then you find out about these personalities later?
Yeah, I think it's definitely he didn't bring a bunch of people into the game, and I do think that community, starting the community at the boots on the ground point is important. But we've had that, and we've gone through that cycle, and keeping that going is also important. But I feel like the people who want to play Melee, are already playing Melee, and we're having trouble getting those people. I feel like I'm kind of going.
We ditched all the things that actually got the influx of new people. Like we have none of those things anymore.
Yeah.
Like the documentary Steam has run out. The Evo Steam run out. We don't have anything that's big.
The
anymore.
Melee game Steam run out.
Yeah.
TMG did. It's fucking
TMG
CSL
was so
killed
sick.
TMG.
That's the biggest reason I got involved.
Wait, something killed the TMG?
Or one of the big.
Not
one
really.
of the biggest.
CSL didn't actually kill TMG. I just say, I mean, overall, everything that gave us the new generation of Melee players, and then the lasting sort of wave that carried in more new players, is ending. And we don't. And you guys are part of the people that are creating something. That actually might introduce people to the scene, in my opinion, because you're not the same thing as a commentator. But I don't really think like, I guess like maybe like, let's use Webbs in chat. Webbs, incredible commentator, but how many people is Webbs actually introducing to the scene by being a commentator? You need to get the game into people's hands and for them to play it, for them to start caring about it and actually be a part of the scene. We were talking about it at the beginning when you said every community leader or every person who's devoted a significant amount of time to this game is someone who has a deep love for the game itself. You need to get people to play the game first. Like every other esport that has fans, is the majority of people watching got introduced to the game through playing. It's the same thing with like normal sports. It's not that you don't have outliers that, you know, I'm sure there are soccer fans who never played soccer as a kid, but overall, you know, most soccer fans, someone played at some point in like their youth. Until you, hold on, until you grow a game to a point where it's so culturally relevant that you drag the other people in that didn't play it. But you have to be so big to get to that point. That's what the NFL did with women. Is like women don't play football, but the NFL finally reached a scale of importance where the only demographic they had left to attract to their game and be a fan was women. So the NFL started doing things to market to women. And that's at like
as like shallow
that it's like irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean to be fair, like the NFL's attempts at like marketing to women are fairly surface level and shallow, but I agree with the broader making.
Yeah, I mean they did increase the percentage of women.
Yeah, very true.
So I guess that's just what I'm saying. We're at the small level where to introduce people to the game, there needs to be something that makes them play it. And I don't know if like commentators or figureheads or like famous people are so much that way as like efforts like the content that is created, like a documentary that introduces people to the scene, or a really hype huge tournament like Evo that like I don't know.
I think a commentator.
I'm gonna propose something even like it's gonna sound a little more out there, but I even think I think the release of Smash 4 coinciding with the community's massive growth around like 2014. I think even Brawl coming out, even though it really hurt local scenes for a while, like if you actually look at national attendance, like around like Pound 4 was the biggest Melee tournament for years, and that came about like a year and a half after Brawl's release. Like I don't think it's a coincidence that like when new Smash games comes out, it might hurt local attendance or like cause it in Brawl's case it caused like a bit of a split because we weren't sure about whether Melee would live or not. But when Smash 4 came out, there was no doubt about there being a split.
This is something interesting that you bring up because I have a little like joke I like to tell people is that when Smash 5 coming out will be pretty good for the Melee scene because when it comes to Smash, Reaganomics works. Trickle down economics finally.
Where's Jackzilla? Where's
finally
Jack?
has its
You have to
purpose.
confirm this.
I 100% agree that like the most important time for making good Melee content is as soon as Smash 5 comes out, because especially if you're doing both, like you'll drag those Smash 5 people in, and then once like Smash 4 they get sick of it or this character's too overpowered, they'll be like, oh, what else is there to see in the Smash community? And they'll see Melee, they'll see this 17 years of people playing soccer.
You know, chat has been popping off during this entire like we've been talking about what if Nintendo sponsored Little League Baseball and and like Webs has been talking some ish.
Also, to mention something, I'm sorry, Save. I didn't mean, like, I do think you're right to an extent. I just think there's more important things to focus on. And I really hope that, like, with efforts like your guys's, you know, hopefully my efforts and hopefully the efforts of other people.
The E3 Smash 5 Invitational as well.
That we can sort of like take steps as a community to keep the influx of new players and new talent coming in over the years, so that, you know, eventually when Armada and Mango actually are done with this game, we have a new generation of like whatever gods or to replace these people that are just as, you know, have the same fandoms around them, and that this game can continue on.
Oh,
like,
we had such a long argument about this the other day. Kay, do you remember this in the Discord when I was talking about, you know, like when Mango eventually stops playing as much, or when his spot gets taken over in the top 5 or whatever, and I feel like the skill cap of Melee is so high where the chances of that kind of thing happening are it's very hard for me to see someone replacing Mango in the same way or having the same kind of appeal. Like I do think in some players' cases it is a one-off. Like you can't just replace. Like some individuals can't be replaced, but I think that community leaders can have like separate structures so that when they leave the scene, other people can jump in. Like before Juggleguy, there were people like the Mages, Med. There's the whole the Kish brothers. How can I forget them? And before them, there was Matt Daisy. Like Melee has always had generations of people, and I'm sure we'll get community figures in the Melee scene that come from Smash 5 that 4 years from now will be running really important tournaments.
I hope so, dude. That's like that. I think so, and I hope so.
Send copies to Korea while you're at.
Come here, Kay. Come here, we'll kidnap you.
No, the rest of the world needs to come to Korea, dude.
Hey, I want to know what you think of my theory that if Melee suddenly became as culturally relevant in Korea as League of Legends and StarCraft, that the best player in the world would be Korean within 2 years.
Ooh.
No, Armada. The best player in the world might be half Korean. And
I mean,
that's
yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, no.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is that reaching to that point of cultural acceptance, I have like a 99.999% sure that will never happen.
Not at all.
No, but
it will never happen. It won't even reach like half the popularity. If it reaches like Street Fighter popularity or even half of Street Fighter popularity, I would be so happy in Korea.
A 3-year
Yeah, let's go, Webs.
If we could get like 40 entrants and have a net play crew battle with North Korea, we are popping off, dude.
Are you kidding, dude?
Voluntary esports sweatshop.
This is getting into dangerous waters.
No, I feel like that's pretty accurate. Have you ever been into a Korean PC cafe? It is like fucking an ecosystem in there.
I'll take your word for it, Kay.
Like what? Think about it this way: $1 gets you an hour at the PC cafe.
That's so nuts.
Yeah,
that's crazy, dude.
Yeah. In fact, it's the best place to get like free air conditioning if you're just waiting to go to a bar at 12 a.m.
Are you guys ready?
Really, sorry if this is like dipping out early, but I actually have to go now.
Oh no, we've been going on.
Yeah,
we've been going on for a while, dude.
Yeah, actually, we really don't have any Q&A questions really queued up. No one really kind of responded to that, and we've also ran a little while. I think we'd be good to wrap it up here. So, and especially so it doesn't mess up the.
Thank you so much for coming on, Calvin.
Yeah, this was a good podcast. We had a lot of fun people in the chat. We had a lot of good conversations. We had a lot of good topics lined up. And Blur didn't come crashing in this time, so
Yeah, that's
yeah. So yeah,
Cool.
This felt like a nice little conversation. Like it didn't feel. I think in previous streams, like it sometimes felt like that maybe just for me, but that watchful audience was there. But this time, it just felt like all of us were genuinely just kicking it back, like just talking. It was nice.
I really
Aiden. Ambi asked an important question.
Yeah,
Oh,
Aiden,
no.
I swear.
I'm not gonna answer this. I'm not gonna answer this. I don't wanna have to.
No, God, Blur's here. No. He always finds us. No.
How is that possible?
Blur's just been waiting for 2 hours. Just, I'm gonna get him.
Oh my God.
Who leaked it?
Are you fucking kidding me?
Who leaked it?
Are you serious?
Who?
What the fuck?
You ever see Total Recall when that guy kills someone? He's like, "You blabbed, Quaid," and he's like chasing down Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, you know what? We couldn't have ended this podcast without a shitty Edwin movie.
There it
Yeah, I
is.
had to get that. What was it last week? I don't know what my third. Also, Total Recall is not a shitty movie. I made a shitty analogy, but don't say it's a shitty movie.
Oh God, no! That's time for movie talk. I think we've got a good ending with Blur showing up. Aiden, thank you for coming on the show.
Alright.
I think it's
And
really good.
come on
episode.
with me next week.
And we will see you guys next week. Same time, same place, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Peace.
Blur will always be here.
See ya.